This is the restaurant at the Golden Crown Hotel in Nazareth. After breakfast, waiting for our companions to go to our next destination, Gideon Springs. Nazareth is unlike the modern cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa. It is quite old, congested, not very tidy, and lacking of modern amenities from the vicinity of the hotel. It is unlike Jerusalem, however, Jerusalem have much more history to offer.
What's Boker?
Boker.
Okay.
Tov. Good.
Good.
Morning.
What language is that?
Hebrew.
Oh, Hebrew. Boker.
Yeah, Boker Tov. Boker Tov, it's good morning. And of course, it must be good morning. Of course.
Okay. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Have a nice, great day. What we're going to do now? We're going now to the Gideon Spring. It's connected to the story of Gideon on the spring when he's ready to go to fight against the Midianim.
What is the point? My name is Eli. Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Boker Tov. So again, with the other voice, with the microphone, I need to talk again. Okay, and what we're going to do today, of course, it's going to be cold, rain in some places. So care about that. I don't want anyone to, feeling not so well in this tour. I want you back safe to you home. Okay? I'm here with you, so don't worry. This is back in the history when we're going further to the time of the judge, to the time of Israel in this land. The Midianites attacked because they came from the desert. They attacked the people of Israel and they stay here in Jezreel Valley, in the place it's called the Mori Hill. We're going to see the connection between the Mori Hill and the Gideon Spring.
Gideon Spring, or En Harod, still flows today from the mouth of a cave at the foot of Mount Gilboa. Gideon, also named Jerubbaal and Jerubeshet, was a military leader, judge, and prophet whose calling and victory over the Midianites are recounted in the book of Judges in the Hebrew Bible.
And you see a lot of pool. This is a fish farmer. Here, all that pool. Very good fish.
The book of Judges is the seventh book of the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Old Testament. In the Hebrew Bible, it covers the time between the book of Joshua and the book of Samuel. The Old Testament is the first part of Christian Bibles, based primarily upon the Hebrew Bible or Tanakh. One day, a man named Gideon was threshing out wheat in a hidden place when he saw an angel sitting under an oak tree. The angel said to him, "You are a brave man, Gideon, and the Lord is with you. Go out boldly and save your people from the power of the Midianites."
Put down the people to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, "Everyone who laps the water with his tongue like a dog."
There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel down to drink." As long as Gideon lived, he ruled as judge in Israel.
And you're on your knees, what are you doing to the idols?
You're worshiping God.
When you're drinking, just don't care about that. So God with you. Gideon take 300 soldiers, just 300 soldiers, and he came to the Midian camp at night.
The spring of Harod still flows today from the mouth of a cave at the foot of Mount Gilboa. It is a natural reserve with lawns, a picnic area, and eucalyptus trees. Bet Shean is one of the few places to go to be able to feel how the Romans lived 4,000 years ago. Jerash in Jordan and the Colosseum complex in Rome are the others we've been to. Due to the size, once I'm at its center, have brought me the atmosphere of the time the Romans lived in these places. This part of the tour is not concerned with the life of Christ, but rather with what was here 1,500 years before the birth of Christ. After the Egyptian conquest of Beit Shean by the pharaoh Thutmose III in the 15th century BC, the small town on the summit of the mount became the center of the Egyptian administration of the region. In the biblical account of the battle of the Israelites against the Philistines on Mount Gilboa, the bodies of King Saul and 3 of his sons were hanged on the wall of Beit Shean. Beit Shean is located above the Dead Sea Transform, a fault system which makes it one of the cities in Israel most at risk to earthquakes. Historically, the city was destroyed in the Golan earthquake of 749. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to visit Jerash in Jordan, which had, up to this date, been the biggest Roman ruins we've been to. Being in the center of the site brought us to the days when the Romans lived there. Jerash is located 48 kilometers north of the capital of Jordan, Amman. The earliest Arab Semitic inhabitants of Jerash lived in the area during the pre-classical period of the first millennium BC, 500 years after Beit Shean. However, archaeologists have found ruins of settlements dating back to the Neolithic age from 7500 BC. Like all Roman colosseums everywhere, the Colosseum here had great acoustics. Even if it did not have a roof, actors can be heard in all parts where the spectators were sitting.
No, be more in the middle, it's the base, more. Yeah, this, up. That's it, there. Good, thank you.
The University of Pennsylvania carried out excavations of ancient Beit Shean in 1921 for 10 years. Relics from the Egyptian period were discovered, and most of them are in the Rockefeller Museum in Jerusalem. Some are in the University of Pennsylvania Museum in Philadelphia. This former Roman metropolis was home to 30,000 to 40,000 citizens and covered approximately 370 acres. The ancient city of Beit Shean was opened to the public and turned into a national park in the 1990s. This is a common WC during the Roman times. There were 2 gutters with running water under where people sit down. One to wash away the excrement and the other to clean your hands with.
No, you see one sitting here, one sitting here, one sitting here. At the end of the 19th century, what's happening in the road of London? All the horses shit. Our smell, it was London. Our smell, it was other people, other cities in America or villages in America at that time.
Beit Shean is about 13 kilometers south of the Sea of Galilee and 70 kilometers from Jerash, Jordan. This national park is located on the north side of the modern city of Beit Shean. In 1812, a Swiss-German traveler described this as a village with 70 to 80 houses, whose residents were in a miserable state. However, in the early 1900s, though still a small and obscure village, it was known for its plentiful water supply, fertile soil and its production of olives, grapes, figs, almonds, apricots, and apples. Just like the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, Beit Shean has a light and sound show which opened in 2008. The show is open 300 nights per year and requires advanced reservation. Every 20 minutes, a group of 100 are entered to the park, view a 10-minute multimedia orientation presentation, then follow a guided tour of the enchanted ancient city. Magdala was an ancient city on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. In the Babylonian Talmud, it is known as Magdala Nunaya, meaning Tower of the Fishes. Magdala was a major 1st century port on the Sea of Galilee, a center of trade and commerce, and an exporter of salted fish to markets as far away as Europe. It is believed to be the birthplace of Mary Magdalene. Recognition of Magdala as the birthplace of Mary Magdalene appears in texts dating back to the 6th century. In the 8th and 10th centuries, Christian sources write of a church in the village that was also Mary Magdalene's house, where Jesus is said to have exorcised her of demons. Mary Magdalene was the first eyewitness of the risen Christ and was commissioned by Jesus to inform the disciples of his resurrection.
Welcome. We're delighted to welcome you to Magdala. This is the town of Mary Magdala, and it's also a 1st century town. It's called Migdal in Hebrew, but Magdalene is the name of the place. Also, speak in English. Mary Magdalene is from here, so it means Mary of Magdala. Mary of Migdal is the same thing. So this town is described by Flavius Josephus as the town between Mount Arbel, which is all this mountain. You saw the big mountain? Yeah. He says it's the town between Mount Arbel and the Sea of Galilee. So if you look out the window, that is the Sea of Galilee.
Mary Magdalene was a Jewish woman who, according to the 4 canonical Gospels, traveled with Jesus as one of his followers and was a witness to his crucifixion, burial, and resurrection. The Gospel of Luke lists Mary as one of the women who traveled with Jesus and helped support his ministry out of their resources, indicating she was probably relatively wealthy. Mary Magdalene is considered to be a saint by the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Anglican, and Lutheran churches, with a feast day of July 22. Other Protestant churches honor her as a heroine of the faith. During the Middle Ages, Mary Magdalene was regarded in Western Christianity as a repentant prostitute or promiscuous woman, claims not found in any of the 4 canonical Gospels. Speculations that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife or that she had a sexual relationship with him are regarded by most historians as highly dubious. Just a few hundred meters outside of the excavations, we stop for lunch and get ready to visit Nazareth village. Nazareth Village is an open-air museum in Nazareth, Israel that reconstructs and reenacts village life in the Galilee in the time of Jesus. The village features houses, fields, wine and olive presses, all built to resemble those that would have been in a Galilee village in the 1st century. This would be called skansen in other countries.
This is a sample of the sandals they used to wear. It's from leather. And whenever they wanted to press the grapes to get the wine, the juice, then the wine, they just took them off and pressed the grapes barefoot. And why barefoot? Because the grapes have seeds in them. And if they did them with the sandals or with the rolling stones, it would crush the seeds and would cause the wine to taste bitter after.
It is not advisable to go here if it is raining. You cannot go outside. Jericho is in the Palestinian territories and is located near the Jordan River and the West Bank. It is governed by the Fatah faction of the Palestinian National Authority. Jericho was occupied by Jordan from 1949 to 1967 and has been held under Israeli occupation since 1967. Administrative control was handed over to the Palestinian Authority in 1994. Archaeologists have unearthed the remains of more than 20 successive settlements in Jericho, the first of which dates back 11,000 years. Several springs in and around the city have attracted human habitation for thousands of years. In the narrative of the conquest of Canaan in the book of Joshua, the Battle of Jericho is the first battle that is described. According to Joshua, the walls of Jericho fell after Joshua's Israelite army marched around the city blowing their trumpets.
Hills, the other side, okay? You can see it. Alright? So, down below there is the Jordan Valley. We are in the western part of the Jordan River. Okay?
Excavations at Tel El Sultan, the biblical Jericho, have failed to produce data to substantiate the biblical story, and scholars are virtually unanimous that the book of Joshua holds little historical value. Some archaeologists deem the biblical story of the fall of Jericho as not founded on genuine historical sources. We're now at a restaurant at the West Bank, Palestine. There was no immigrations, checkpoint, or border. We were just told by Ellie where we were. The first hunter-gatherers settled here around 9000 BC. Besides being the oldest town on earth, Jericho is also the lowest, more than 250 meters below sea level.
There's a church on the story about Jesus in Jericho. And the miracle that he did in Jericho. It's a Russian church that built on the.
Oh, it's a Russian.
Yes.
It's like in the Russian Orthodox.
Russian Orthodox church that built on the story of Jesus.
Since Jericho was the normal route from Galilee to Jerusalem, Jesus passed through it several times. In 35 BC, the Roman politician Mark Antony made the gift of Jericho to his lover Cleopatra of Egypt. Cleopatra had coveted the oasis because she wanted to control the plantations of Parsimon. Parsimon, which is now extinct, produced a perfume that reputedly drove men wild. Later, Cleopatra leased Jericho to Herod the Great. After Mark Antony and Cleopatra died, Herod gained ownership of the city. Herod built a palatial residence in Jericho and died there in 4 BC. After Jerusalem, Jericho is the most excavated site in Israel.
Climbing to Jerusalem, to the hills of Jerusalem. We start to climb from the valley, from the Jordan Valley, all the way to the hills of Jerusalem. And this is what Dead Sea and Jericho, it's below the sea level, okay? Okay, and the day that we're going to the Dead Sea, we're going the same in this road, so we'll stop here to take a photo of the sea level. Okay? Okay? And this is the distance between Jericho, between the desert and Jerusalem. Okay?
Jerusalem is located on a plateau in the Judean mountains, between the Mediterranean and the Dead Sea. It is one of the oldest cities in the world and is considered holy to the three major Abrahamic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
We are now in the Jerusalem area. We're going to cross the tunnel of the road, the Temple Mount, the city wall. Just beautiful view of Jerusalem.
Israelis and Palestinians both claim Jerusalem as their capital, as the State of Israel maintains its primary governmental institutions there, while the State of Palestine ultimately foresees the city as its seat of power. However, neither claim is widely recognized internationally.
So we're crossing Jerusalem because we're going to Bethlehem today. And after we finish with Bethlehem, because we have church, lunch, shopping, and mass in Bethlehem.
The holiness of Jerusalem in Christianity is reinforced by the New Testament account of Jesus' crucifixion there. King David and his son King Solomon commissioned the building of the first temple, assumes symbolic importance for the Jewish people. In Sunni Islam, Jerusalem is the third holiest city after Mecca and Medina. During its long history, Jerusalem had been destroyed at least twice, besieged 23 times, attacked 52 times, and captured and recaptured 44 times.
And this gate takes the people to Jaffa, to Tel Aviv. And this, the Jaffa Gate is the Citadel Tower of David. And we are now we're driving along to the west city wall of the old city.
Historically, Jerusalem's economy was supported almost exclusively by religious pilgrims, as it was located far from the major ports of Jaffa and Gaza. Jerusalem's religious and cultural landmarks today remain the top draw for many foreign visitors, with a majority of tourists visiting the Western Wall and the Old City. Given the city's central position in both Jewish nationalism and Palestinian nationalism, the selectivity required to summarize some 5,000 years of inhabited history is often influenced by ideological bias or background. Water supply has always been a major problem in Jerusalem, as attested to by the intricate network of ancient aqueducts, tunnels, pools, and cisterns found in the city.
Our tour guide in Bethlehem, her name is Fairuz. She is from Bethlehem, and she's going to guide us here in this place. Okay? Thank you. Please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine.
Thank you. My name is Fairuz. You can call me Faye for short. And now here we are. So
I would like to start by talking about the main religious symbols and the meanings behind them from the Holy Land. The Jerusalem cross, or the Holy Land cross. The Jerusalem cross is divided into 4 tau crosses that are joined in the center so as to make the large cross. The large cross represents Jerusalem from where Christianity has started. And the 4 small crosses in the corners represents the 4 corners of the earth from where Christianity has spread to all over the world by missions. Or the Gilad stone. It was found at the southern border of the Holy Land in a city called Eilat. There they found King Solomon's mines. We dug the stone out, cut it and polish it. We make different kinds of jewelry out of it. This necklace is one example of the finished jewelry that we make out of this stone. You'll be able to find different pendants, earrings and rings, either with gold or sterling silver with this particular stone. Bethlehem is known for olive wood carvings. If you look at the far end of the store, we have a big section of olive wood carvings, but in the olive tree section, we carry two different kinds of workmanship. We have work that's done all the way by a copy machine that can copy 12 figures at the same time so as to get the outer shape of the figure, and only the finish is done by hand, is done by special drillers so as to make the small features of the shepherd in this case. And we carry work that's done all the way by hand, from scratch, from the branch of wood, till you come out with this detailed shepherd. I want to show you a larger example. This is one of the nicest cloth pieces that we have in the store. It's called the Forgiveness. It's Jesus forgiving the soldier that crucified. Again, it's made from one big branch of wood, with chisels and knives to come out with this detail. You'll be able to find different nativity scenes and different religious items that are done both ways, either by hand or by machine.
The products being sold here are of the best quality. However, they can also be pricey. The best strategy would be to look at a place like this, then go to the small stores along Via Dolorosa, of which there are hundreds of, before making a decision of what to buy. The wood comes from olive trees, the type that grew in Gethsemane and around Jerusalem when Jesus walked. Every 2 years, the olive trees are pruned so that they bear fruit. These pieces are made from those prunings. After the olive tree is trimmed, its branches are kept for a long period inside dark places. Dark places are ideal to dry the olive wood because the temperature of the place stays the same year-round.
We are now in Bethlehem. Now I'm going to start with the location of Bethlehem. Bethlehem locates about 8 kilometers to the south of Jerusalem, and it's about 780 meters above sea level. In Arabic, house of meat; in Hebrew, house of bread. Bethlehem also was mentioned in the Old Testament under the name Ephrata. And Ephrata means fertility. Of Christians living in Bethlehem, it's about 10%.
While some Israelis avoid Jerusalem for its relative lack of development and religious and political tensions, the city has attracted Palestinians, offering more jobs and opportunity than any city in the West Bank or Gaza Strip.
This is the main road. But
This road.
this is the main road. This is Nativity Street.
This is the road.
But to the right side, behind these buildings, we have Star Street, which is very old and very narrow.
We're now on the way to the Church of the Nativity, which is the site of the birth of Christ. This is the start of the road we will be tracing of the life of Christ from his birth up to his death and resurrection. Bethlehem is a Palestinian city located in the central West Bank, Palestine, about 10 kilometers south of Jerusalem. Bethlehem now has a Muslim majority, but is still home to a significant Palestinian Christian community. Bethlehem's chief economic sector is tourism, which peaks during the Christmas season when Christians make pilgrimage to the Church of the Nativity, as they have done for almost 2,000 years. The door of humility was not being changed or repaired. Some say the door was made small to prevent horsemen from entering the basilica during the Ottoman period. Others say the tiny door causes everyone who enters to bow before they come in, as a check to our own pride and egos.
The history of this church started over 2,000 years ago in Nazareth, because we all know that Joseph and Mary, St. Joseph and Virgin Mary, they were living in Nazareth.
The church is administered jointly by Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Armenian Apostolic, and Syriac Orthodox Church authorities. All four traditions maintain monastic communities on the site. As a result, however, there have been repeated brawls among monk trainees over quiet respect for others' prayers, hymns, and even the division of floor space for cleaning duties. The Palestinian police have been called to restore peace and order. Persians invaded Palestine in 614 and destroyed many churches. They spared the Church of the Nativity when they saw a mosaic on an interior wall depicting the three wise men in Persian dress. This is the entrance to the Grotto of the Nativity, which is a rectangular cavern beneath the church. This is a cave that has been honored as the site of Christ's birth since at least the 2nd century. A silver star in the floor marks the very spot where Christ is believed to have been born. The star's Latin inscription reads, "Here of the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ was born, 1717. The floor is paved in marble and 15 lamps hang above the star. 6 belong to the Greeks, 5 to the Armenians, and 4 to the Latins. In 1847, the theft of the silver star marking the exact site of the Nativity was an ostensible factor in the international crisis over the holy places that ultimately led to the Crimean War in 1854 to 56. As the ornamentation, icons, and lamps in the front of the church suggest, the basilica is now almost wholly a Greek Orthodox place of worship. The Armenian Orthodox own the northern transept. The Catholics have the site of the manger and the adjoining altar next to the Nativity Grotto. So while Christians in the Western world are celebrating Christ's birthday on December 25, the church at his birthplace still has 13 days to wait for the Orthodox observance on January 7 and a further 12 days for the Armenian Christmas. In 2002, during the Second Palestinian Uprising, dozens of Palestinian militants who were being chased by Israeli soldiers took cover in the church for 39 days. The church was originally commissioned in 327 by Constantine the Great and his mother Helena. The original basilica was completed sometime between 333 to 339. It was destroyed by fire during the 6th century, and a new basilica was built in 565 by Byzantine Emperor Justinian.